Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of More Than You See, where Shelley and I have conversations with creatives about their mental health journeys. We are so happy to have you with us today. And today is a episode that we're just going to jump straight in because Shelley and I were talking off camera and I kind of turned to her and was like, hey, we should just be recording this. So let's just get going. We talk about some really fun but emotionally charged things. We talk about breakups. We talk about birth trauma. We talk about what's the World Health Organization just released their numbers as far as mental health disorders in the world. And of course, as one would guess, those are increasing. And so we talk a little bit about that. We talk about our disconnection that we have with each other and with society. And to round it out, we do end with 3 positive things that are happening in the world right now that are related to mental health, because I think that it's really important for us to remember that even through all of the darkness, there is some light. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this episode. You just came off of a huge, very emotionally charged experience that you were like, whether it was good or bad or whatever you feel about it, it was still like there was a lot that job took out of you.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that coming down from any job in this profession is really tough. And then add on your already destabilized life with everything happening,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense that you're so thrown and unsure of what to do next right now.
Yeah. And I was, I know a couple episodes back we were kind of talking about like the addiction process of this career and like the cycles that it puts you in of, where you get the job, dopamine hit, you get to do the job. It's, flash flood of chemicals and, you know, heightened excitement and audience or cameras and all that, and then the job ends and then it all depletes. And funny enough, I was at the store yesterday picking up I have a friend that unfortunately just lost their dog. I know you know what that's like. So I was just picking up a little goodie bag to send over, and I found a magazine about is like the science of addiction, and it just kind of caught my eye. And so I was perusing it last night, but I just part of me even thinks I'm sort of trying to decipher for myself if this career is an addiction cycle for me. As much as I love
Mhm.
it and I've always loved performing, but I'm, at the age that I am, and I'm just wondering because I've had wonderful opportunities and great luck and, the ability to consistently work, and but it always kind of leads back to the same thing, which is okay, well, you finished that job and now you have to find another job. And I think with my current circumstance of, you know, destabilization is a great word, but, heartbreak and grief and, kind of lost in the wilderness type of feel. Um, that now putting on top of it the depletion of another job. And even so, like during the job, I was just trying, it was just an uphill climb because you're putting on the face and you're putting on the boots and you're putting on the makeup and you're singing the songs and everything's, no one looking at me on stage would know anything that's happening behind the scenes of my own life.
Mhm.
And that's something I kind of liked about, I always liked about acting, which was like you can you can dive into something that isn't your life. And I'm just sort of wondering if I'm sort of being called differently now to be like, stop, stop doing that. Start diving more into your own life and not reaching these high highs and low lows. Um,
It is an addiction cycle, and because it's like, you know, I'm always like, okay, acting is like temp work, where it's like, you go out to a temp agency, you apply for a bunch of things, you get, um, hired by someone, get put into another job, you learn how to do this thing for a couple months. You're, like replacing someone when they're on maternity leave, like whatever. It's like temping, except with temping, that like that is your job. You are doing this to earn money, and that is it. And with acting and performing and like being in this career, you're thinking that every single temp job is going to lead to the life that you want and is
mm,
going to create the life that you want.
mm,
And that's something that I think I've been thinking about a lot is like, I mean, especially with having a kid now, I'm like, okay, what am I doing every day and how does that fit in with my vision of what I want my life to be? Because I bitch all the time about my side jobs and like all of the crap that I have to do in order to maintain this like industry focused life.
hmm
Um, and sure, would it be easier to like just go get some 9 to 5 job and whatever? Although I know that I would very much dislike that. So like, sure. But I, when I stop and sit with myself, I'm like, okay, I do actually genuinely enjoy the process and the ups and downs, even if I don't get to where I want to be. At least right now. That's my answer right now.
yeah.
And I think that's something we all have to like. I talked to someone on the podcast like a couple seasons ago, and they're an actor and like an acting teacher person, and they were like, if you're not thinking about quitting acting at least once a month, then you're not thinking enough, basically.
Yeah.
You need to evaluate with yourself like, hey, is this still making me happy? It is great. Okay, we'll do another couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm definitely, I think it just frightens me. The newness, the new perspective of thinking just makes me emotional because I get so frightened by it
Mm-hmm.
because it's all I ever wanted in my life forever, like
Mm-hmm.
that was that was the thing and there was nothing else. And I'm just kind of concerned where like I don't sit in a seat of like, "Oh, wow, I was thinking kind of limited. Maybe there could be more. Like the idea that like the dreams of my life could be bigger is an interesting concept to me because I thought I was already a big dreamer. And so to
Mm.
kind of sit in it's not about dreaming like bigger of like more things, accumulating more and like being a bigger star or like a bigger than I am. It's more just like I think I was just focused on one lane of the picture rather than, the rest of it that opens up. So I was like, no, I don't care about a family. I don't care about relationships and I don't care about romantic relationships. I would always be like, well, if it happens, it happens. I think I'm just being charged with being more intentional of
Mm-hmm.
where my life is unfolding. And because I think the past version of me thought it would just flow naturally,
Mm-hmm.
well, in a sense, but I think I'm just learning that you have to know, you have to be intentional. Yes, you have to flow with circumstances, but you have to have intention behind where you'd like to be headed. And
Mhm.
I think I've just always been so uncomfortable. My anxiety stems really from like making a right or wrong decision because that was
Mhm.
instilled in me very young of like, every decision will either lead you down the path of righteousness or a path to hell. Like,
Right.
that's a lot of pressure.
For sure. Well, and I think it's it's very hard to be in the position where you're at now, and also the age that we're both at. I was having some big breakdown feelings over the last couple days. I had a couple like really rough days, and Brian was like, "And you're almost 40." And I was like, "Thanks, Brian. I still have more than a year." But I mean, he's right, just like these big transitional years. And there's, there's something to be said in like our changing chemicals and everything going on in our bodies and brains where we're like, okay, is this comfortableness that I'm in right now, is this what I want? Or do I need to change things up? And like, let me say that whatever happens in the future, you examining what's going on in your life and in yourself and in your relationships and in your relationship with yourself and your career and everything else, like you're doing the hard work. And that's so admirable. And so many people don't. And I think that it's something that, like, my relationship that I'm in now is the best and easiest relationship in some ways, and also the hardest. And it's the hardest because I now want to like make sure that I am intentional and that I am like choosing my person and choosing to like fix, like if we have an argument about something, I used to in past times like ignore the argument and then just leave it for years and like let it fester, and it would be something that was like degrading my own worth or my own sense of self or what I want in a relationship. Like I would always put myself second and like let my partners be first and be like, that's okay. Like I'll deal with that later kind of thing. And now I'm in a relationship where both of us respect each other so much that we're like, no, we're going to fucking figure this out now. And that's really hard because it's like, I don't want to, talk to you about this for whatever, but it's like doing the adult stuff. So, Shelley, I hate to say it, but you're like an adult now.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice being a kid where you're just guided and, you know, you don't have to take your own accountability.
Yeah.
um,
What are you doing for yourself?
well, I did get my nails redone yesterday,
Woo.
which is funny because the character I was playing in the musical that I was just in was a big nail gal, and so I had fake nails
Mhm.
on. And I was like, I'm enjoying them. I'll go,
Mhm.
a few more weeks with it and see how I'm enjoying it. I'm actually, on the quest of things. I have applied for a new job that's just like a part-time senior care provider of basically someone who's able to provide driving assistance or errands or just companionship.
Mhm.
The elderly has always been held like a very dear place in my heart just because my grandparents were like, I had the old quote unquote older parents um,
Mm.
amongst my friends, and so my grandparents were significantly older, and one of my grandmothers had Alzheimer's disease, and she lived in an assisted living facility. And it's just a lot of things that I had realized young that kind of scared teenagers or scared people. I was just always around because it was part of my life of like, yeah, old people lose their minds and or need help in, various ways. And, I'm sure it's scary to most people because it's a look at our own mortality, I'm sure, of just like, oh gosh, it we don't want to lose the control of our faculties or our minds and things like that. But I always just took it as like, I'd love to help. I think seniors are a vulnerable community that can get passed over a lot as well. Just so many communities can, but that one always reaches to my heart. I'm in the process of like getting onboarded to see how that, can, be another addition to my life and something that I feel of service to.
Hmm.
See what
I think
that
that's,
may bring, while I'm evaluating and there's just a lot of attention, there's just a lot of time with myself, which is great, but I also want some of that attention off of me. So I would like to
yeah,
put that attention elsewhere in a way that I can be of service.
I think that's really valuable. Um, I think having an intention, having a purpose outside of yourself is the best way to get ourselves out of emotional spirals,
Yeah.
to be able to like focus on someone else's needs. I mean, and that's what I guess that's what we do when we're in relationships and we get too comfortable sometimes is we're only focusing on other people's needs. But in this case, it is like, you know, being of service, and it's not a detriment to you or to your own, you know, livelihood. It's like going to add. And it doesn't mean you're not an actor. It doesn't mean you've decided anything. It's just you're figuring it out.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I will be excited to get to the part of the story where it's hindsight and you can tell everyone like, oh my gosh, and the breakthrough and the victory has come and it has built me as a person. And like, I understand intellectually that that is all a part of it, but the, the true going through it sucks
Hmm.
because there's just and I'm always a person that's like, I know this about myself. I'm not going to change unless I have to. I think that's human
Hmm.
nature. I don't think any of us really bring
Yeah,
about
want to be uncomfortable.
significant change until there is
Hmm.
some kind of wake up call or, you know, a fear almost, or just whatever it is for each person that goes, I got to change some things. And but the way my brain works, I'm just I'm working on this a lot. I'm working on trying not to doubt so much. My brain just like naturally goes to the tip of the scale of doubting and overthinking. So as much as I could go, this is say all the right things, exactly where I'm meant to be, or this is all part of the process and this is exactly what is supposed to happen right now, or blah, 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 because it just all feels like a load of crap sometimes.
Hmm.
But I think I'm learning the lesson of like, just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean something is wrong with me or I've done something wrong. It just doesn't feel good. And who likes not feeling good? But I really don't like not feeling good
Hmm.
because I think going back to the like putting pressure on ourselves, it's when I feel good, then I feel like I can be available too. people and I love being available to people. And so, and I feel like that's somehow part of like my purpose or what I enjoy about being here in this life. And to not do it just like feels like a death to me, you know? And I know
Mhm.
it's not forever, but I'd like it to speed up.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any? I mean, I know you've been through your own, you've had divorce and you've had big, sorry, I'm just really emotional right now.
Mhm.
You've had these big moments that as a person on the outside, I don't feel what you go through. You know what I mean? Like we can
Mhm.
all talk about our experiences, but only the person going through it or who has had a similar experience knows that feeling of going through it. And we can all relate on these universal levels. And I'm trying to just cling to just keep going, like
Mhm.
I'll it'll settle somewhere. Um and I don't know, what were your when you were going through your trials of,
Shit.
of the time. Yeah, like what was your day by day when you're just like stuck in it?
I mean, I think for me, it was taking care of my dog. Like that was the only thing that got me through. And that's why I think that, like, again, having something outside of yourself to take care of, even if it's another person, like, and obviously you've got a dog as well, yeah, that was the only thing really that it was just like, I can't give up. I can't stop living. I can't stop being here because I have this other creature that depends on me and I need to keep him happy and safe. And yeah, that's why it was so hard for me to lose him. And I think, now it's like something that Brian does with me that I think you should do that's helpful. This is what I've been doing the last couple days is when I have big emotions, I first of all, naming your emotions because, and beyond just like sadness, there's always something else underneath it. For me, for the last couple days, it was disappointment, anger, sadness, but mostly disappointment and anger. And so Brian would say to me, say to yourself, I'm disappointed. And that makes sense because, and if you name it, it is very helpful. And for me, like I haven't talked about this much on the podcast, but for me, like I had a very difficult birth with Beckett. And it was very much not what I wanted it to be. And there was some stuff that happened over the last couple days that really like brought that front and center for me
Mm.
emotionally. And I had to do this multiple times for myself over the last couple days because I was really a bit of a mess. And so I would say, like right now I'm feeling disappointed. And that makes sense because it was my only opportunity to give birth and it went fucking haywire. It was a disaster. Um,
May I ask,
and so, yeah,
did you do the like I don't know, or allowed to say, did you do it vaginally or did you have a
I did
C-section?
not. No,
C-section.
I had an emergency C-section.
Okay. Which
Uh,
was not your plan, obviously,
it was
is what you're
very
saying.
much not my plan.
Got it.
Yeah. I was allowed, the like positives are I was allowed to carry 10 days past my due date before I was induced, um, which is long traditionally,
Mhm.
even though, I mean, I could go on for a long time about this, but, traditionally most moms, on average, before they just started inducing and everyone had C-sections, basically,
Yeah.
women would give birth at 42 weeks, so 2 weeks beyond what they say. And if you're over 35, they usually induce you at 39 weeks. So 3 weeks early, basically, they usually
Okay.
induce. So I was allowed to go to 41 in a couple days. So that in itself is very lucky. So that was a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Where things really went haywire was I was um, I was induced, and then my doctor immediately broke my water, which is a huge violation and is not. Everyone I've talked to is like, that's fucking insane, because your body is like, I was like not in labor, and then that throws you immediately into labor and puts a lot of stress on the baby. It puts a lot of stress on my body. And so many, many, many hours and lots of stuff later, basically, he was shredding my cervix because of where he fell when they broke my water, because he's not supposed to fall, And so I was bleeding a lot, and that's why I ended up having an emergency C-section. But there's just I have a lot of personal anger and frustration tied up with all of that, and personal anger towards myself, which is unfounded, and it's not based on anything. But I have a lot of
Right.
anger towards myself that I didn't do more to try and go into labor naturally. And like, I also know that as I'm speaking this, that's ridiculous, because I like I like did all of the things. I like was eating all of the dates, eating the salad, had the like induction massage, like did all of the stuff. It was September of last year. It was really fucking hot. So I, was supposed to be out walking, which I did, but I also like didn't want to put my baby in danger. So I wasn't going to walk when it was 95 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And so, but I still have a lot of like, what ifs. What if I would have, like, yes, I walked 4 miles before the baby was born, but what if, like, the day before, but what if I would have walked 5? What if I would have walked until my water broke? Like,
Yeah.
if that, why didn't I do more, basically? Not helpful to anyone,
No,
especially to myself.
it's so funny of like circumstantially, I cannot relate, but the way your brain operates, I completely understand of like the way I'm putting all this pressure on myself, and going through heartbreak and grief. And even though it was my decision,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it is the same pressure that you put on yourself of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
How could you have avoided? That's the interesting part that I love about mental health and brain function and the way we are as humans of something happens in our lives. It's not ideal. It's not the way we wanted it to go. And yet our brain will fixate, even though it's already happened, to problem solve it. How could I have avoided that? How could I
Mm-hmm.
done something differently? Or like you're saying, replaying the tape of, was the walking not supposed to happen? Whatever the actions we did that ended up happening, or bringing about the circumstance. And then to kind of put a little like faith play in this, it's just interesting of like when you go, but maybe that's exactly how that was supposed to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and why can't, speak for myself, it's like, if this is exactly how this is all supposed to fold, what's so hard about trusting that that's exactly how it was meant to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Even though we said, nah, no, but if it was meant to happen, it was supposed to happen perfectly. I was supposed to have the ideal,
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to go in, have the natural labor pains, then do the thing that is expected. And it
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen. And now here you know. it still weighs on you. And I'm sorry that that still hurts.
I mean, and it's something that, like, that we like, this is another thing we don't talk about enough. This is actually like in the first few months postpartum for me, I was like, oh shit, maybe I need to like switch all of my focus to this because the lack of communication. When I was postpartum, I would have given anything to like talk about my trauma. I like wanted to tell. I wanted to like share and have empathy and have people ask and feel like I could connect with someone else who had a bonkers experience like I did. And then now, being almost a year past that, I'm like, it's still so painful for me that to talk to other people about their experiences is also painful. And so now I'm on the other end of it where I'm like, oh, me wanting other people to be open about their experience, they may not have been ready for that. I was at the time. And so it's such a complex thing. And this is, I mean, especially with what's happening in our administration. And honestly, the laws around birth and everything now in general, it just like is terrifying, like on so many levels. And it's, oh my God, it makes me so angry. And this is in a, like, well, I was going to say we're in a, developed country, but we're also in a developed country where our, maternity death rate is higher, way higher than it should be, especially in low income communities and in communities that are not white. And I fully see how that happens because the the way that they just like don't treat moms as people in those situations and are just like, well, this is what we're doing next to you. I mean, it really is like you're a vessel, and the important thing is the child, and the vessel, their I mean, their physical health, sure, they want to save the mom, but the mental toll, they don't care. It's not important. And not to completely change the subject here, because I think this is like, but Brian
Please.
sent me an article today that it's kind of on the same subject, but it's actually that they just released new mental health statistics because, the World Health Organization every few years does researches how people are doing in the mental health space. And we would expect it's not good. It has
Mm.
increased so much. They are now saying that over 1 billion people, so nearly 1 in 7 people, live with a mental disorder. And they're saying that 71% of people with psychosis do not receive mental health services. And it is on average, this is crazy, is on this one World Health Organization website, they actually say that spending disparities. So in the US, they actually say that it ranges about $65 per person in high income countries towards mental health services. But in low income countries, it's just 4 cents per person. A global median of just 13 workers per 100,000 people. So 13 workers to help 100,000 people who are suffering from a mental disorder. And number one, we're not alone in our
Right.
feelings. And I mean, there's so much of this is because of the more information that we have, everything that's going on. We're seeing other people's lives that we think are better and flashier. Like, there's all
Right.
of that. But, and also, I also think that so much of it is because we are siloing ourselves and not sharing things. Like, not this is of no slight to you or no slight to anyone, but I'm actually like, I'm surprised that I haven't told you my birth story yet. We are really good friends, and the fact that this isn't something that is just like discussed amongst women
Hmm.
is, to me, is like a little, that's a little sad. Like, is
It is.
it is something where if, when you go through a big breakup, when you like when you lose a parent, when you lose a pet, when you have these big emotional experiences in our lives, instead of us going, hey, I want to hear your story. I want to hear how you're feeling. I want to
Yeah.
hear how you're doing. I want to hear it all. And
Yeah.
we don't do that. And I think that this podcast and other platforms hopefully will encourage people to share their story and to listen to others.
Yeah. And
And
I always, and it's something too, like we're doing this on this podcast of, for me, getting on board with you is helpful to talk to each other. It's like we're doing it in a
Mhm,
public forum type space. But I would also like to take that a step further of like, you don't have to have a podcast to
mhm,
share your story. Just like
yeah,
you were saying, we've been friends and you haven't even shared it with me on a personal level, but
personal level.
just happens that like right now this felt like the time, and not everyone is called to, public speak and everything. But I think the point that you and I are getting to is that you're exactly right. We don't tell each other these things. And I would go as far as to assume, because I know my own brain, that usually when I don't say certain things, it's because I I don't think I'm like special to and it's a harsh rhetoric, but harsh critic in here. Like special enough to provide my own details. Like my brain will
Mm,
go, well, everyone has had their bad experiences. So what makes yours so unique that you would need to speak up and, you know, share it? Like everybody's going through something, they don't want to hear yours. And it's just the biggest lie we can ever tell ourselves. Um, because I would never say to you, don't tell me your story. I would never say
mhm,
to a friend, I would never say to anyone outside of myself, I don't want to hear your story. Everyone's going
mhm,
through something.
right. It's important to remember that you also like sharing, and of course there's exceptions to this, but you sharing your story and your emotions is also being of service to other people, because you being honest about yourself may allow them to be honest about something that's going on in their life. And I think that, there's preaching and there's like, pushing of your, thoughts, but that's not obviously what we're talking about. It's the just sharing, the exchanging of stories. We are a people who are built around storytelling, and like, from like caveman days. And I would be interested to know if like cave women were allowed to be storytellers. But I mean, I think they would have been, but in, maybe their own little like huts where they were, I don't know, whatever, traditional gender roles.
Yeah.
Um, but I talk all the time with some of my friends about like this, like the fact that we don't have a communal mentality anymore, that we're so focused on our own stuff and what's going on with our own family. It's very difficult for people to get outside of that. And I think that, like, number one, that's the only way for us to feel better is by expanding ourselves, helping others, listening to other people's stories. I mean, this is how we, you know, not to get political, but this is what is wrong when people get too focused on one political side. It's because the only thing that they hear is that one side of the story. And so it's
Mhm.
so important for us to share all of these sides of the stories,
Yeah.
because I think it'll make us better as society and make us feel more heard and more understood. And it's, I think it's what's hopefully going to save us from the future and global warming and all that other really
Yeah. Well, it
happy
keeps
stuff.
it keeps the connective tissue, and
For sure.
and at the end of the day, That's the it's the only thing that's going to keep us going is us being here. No matter what, we get the distractions and the political ideologies and the advertisements and the product placement, like everything in this world is designed exactly the way it's designed to keep us distracted, keep us focused on our own gain, our, own,
Hmm.
you know, just right here, so close to ourselves that we, right now, especially the screens, my gosh, the screens, we're all in rooms together, not looking at each other, not paying attention to another, just zoned in on what we got going. And it's it's funny because I do stem with a little like social anxiety, and the way I combat it is to talk to people. I mean, it's kind of the only way to
Hmm.
do it. And it's funny of like I think we live in a day and age where especially maybe younger folks are just scared to talk to anybody because it's so easy not to.
Hmm.
Especially when you've got a tablet right in the palm of your hand that can give you direction, give you an answer, boom, boom, boom. We might have been one of the last generations that if you were lost, you had to go ask somebody, where do I
Right.
go? How do I get to, you'd have to go get directions. Weird, you know,
It's
location
true.
based direction. Like, oh, yeah, when you hit the blue sign, take a left. And,
Right.
you'd have to listen, you'd have to pay attention. We're losing a lot of that art of connection is lost. And funny enough, where did I learn all that? Acting,
Hmm.
wrapping it right back around.
Oh, well, I've got three. We're starting a new little series, a new little addition to the podcast, and I have three happy mental health stories to share today.
Yay! We love happy.
I know, right? Um, and they're really awesome. Number one, there's a article where a psychologist from UC Chicago reports that just 50 minutes spent in nature improves cognitive performance, such as attention and memory, by 20%, while also alleviating anxiety and enhancing immunity.
I can
So,
attest to that.
50 minutes outside can make you 20% smarter.
I love
Why
that. I
not?
love being in nature. It's hard right now in the heat waves, but it's so true. And for me, I'll ask what it does for you. For me, it always just it reminds me just kind of like how small I am. When you look at
Hmm.
trees, I love trees and the uniqueness of trees and the different varieties they come in. And then you see the wind in the trees and you see flowers growing and you see the grass and just the cycle of nature is such a beautiful reminder of
For sure.
the cycles in our own lives. What about you?
Yeah.
Because you love to walk.
I do love to walk. I mean, very similarly, I think, though, just it allows me to focus a lot more. I think it's also just the walking, like there's really something about our brain and our body connection and how, I can be at a computer and be so scattered with my tasks, and I'll be outside and I'll still be working on my phone and doing whatever, but I just like bang through things because I'm just able to be like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it really, I'm like charged up by the sun and then getting through my to-do list. It's great.
Mm.
Um, okay. Number two is you can get a PhD in happiness.
Where?
Centenary University in New Jersey launched the first ever PhD in happiness studies. It's a fully virtual 4-year interdisciplinary program that blends psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, and leadership to train experts in human flourishing. So
Fascinating.
you could get a doctoral degree in joy, which is pretty fun. Maybe that's going to be your new
I'm very curious of what the curriculum would look like.
I know, right? I'll send you the link.
Like
You can
today,
check
we're
it
gonna
out.
go jump on a trampoline.
Hey, and then go and learn what happened with the brain when you jumped on the trampoline. Sure there's some validity there for sure.
Yes.
And number 3, and this one actually makes me feel a lot better because this is something that just I spiral about all the time, is climate change. And Yale has been doing some research, and they have found that Americans who feel climate-related anxiety are not paralyzed, but are actually more likely to engage in climate-positive behaviors, from protests to family conversations to lifestyle changes. So that makes me really happy because that's definitely something that like I'm constantly concerned about the climate and our our poor world, and it's nice to know that like it isn't just paralyzing people, it's encouraging people to make small changes in their lives.
Yes.
Because I do feel like I certainly feel this way. Like Brian and his 2 girls are vegan, and I have always been a very conscious meat eater.
Mm.
I definitely don't eat meat every day. I definitely don't eat it at every meal. And I have now been very conscious about like making sure that I'm, getting a lot of protein in other ways, more sustainable ways,
Hmm.
because we've got one earth, y'all. So that's it.
I've always said, not always. I've recently said, it's funny.
Hmm.
I was working in the Palisades before the fires
Hmm.
last for the fires. That was this year. So last year. And my drive, would spit me out on the PCH, and I'd be right by the beach and see the ocean and the clouds and the trees. And I had this thought where I went, ooh, she's going to outlast us all. It's, yeah, while, yes, the climate change is real, it's the fact that, like, be careful with the earth, everyone, because
Hmm.
she's not going anywhere. She's just going to
Right.
get more angry if we don't
It's
take
true.
care of her.
That's true.
And
It's
so
a very
that's
good
where
point.
I feel, yeah, that's my feeling on it. So, yeah, we do. It is important that our lifestyles and our habits, like you were saying, small implemental changes. It doesn't have to be, get rid of your entire Tupperware system tomorrow, or stop eating meat tomorrow, but just little subtle changes. A big thing for me was, having a reusable water bottle of,
Hmm.
you know, because it's so easy to be okay, just pick up and toss and recycle. And go, where? Then my thought goes, where does the recycling go? Where does it
Right.
go? Um,
Yeah.
so, little by little, change the world.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
That's right.
Well, those are
How are you
lovely,
feel? I was
lovely
going to say, how
points.
are you feeling now? How are you
I'm
feeling now,
feeling a little
Shelley? The
better.
end of our good.
Yeah, by the end, I'm feeling a little better. It's so funny. Just the realization of it's really when I just get so focused on myself. This being
Hmm.
here allows me to focus on another topic, or even if we're speaking of my own life, like I am involved in something that's not just ruminating in my own head about what makes me sad or anxious, all these things. So I'm like, it's so interesting. It's counterintuitive. My brain thinks the more responsible thing is to focus on whatever is making me unhappy and try to fix that. Whereas it's
Hmm.
the polar opposite. It's, focus on something else that's good. Focus on acts of service. Focus on positive movement that you could make. So our brains are so powerful, and I'm just realizing how powerful mine is, but it really can steer in the wrong direction of power. that I want it to
Mhm.
go. Work in progress.
That's right. We all are
Yeah.
forever, which, there's some positives in that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to us today, for
Yes.
sharing space with us and being with us. Obviously, please reach out if there was something here that resonated with you. If you want to send Shelley all the love, just reach out to her
I
on
accept
Instagram.
encouraging
She
messages.
accepts.
Thank you.
Yes. And please, here, I guess I'll just wrap it up. Shelley, are you good?
Go ahead.
All right. Let's just remind yourself and everyone else that everyone has a lot of stuff going on. So be kind to yourself and be kind to everyone else. And remember that you and everyone around you is more than you see. And we will see you next